Welcome to Plowman's Backyard. My name is Kendra. Today I'm going to go out and I'm going to start digging up those potatoes to see actually what we got. If you're new here, our garden did not do well this year. I'm wanting to go see if what's going on underneath the ground, because I can't tell if there's anything really profitable under there with the potatoes or not. I've had some neighbors say that their potatoes looked phenomenal on top with all the greenery and had nothing underneath. So I'm just wondering if maybe that's the opposite for me. Well, you may be thinking, what is wrong with my potato garden? I'm going to be completely honest and say that it looked so bad after I planted it. There was like puddles upon puddles of water in my potato patch. Birds were bathing in my potato patch, and after a month time I still couldn't till my potatoes because the soil was so thick and dense that it would just clump. And I think by about a month in, I officially gave up on my potatoes and just let the weeds completely take over. I'm not gonna lie. I knew that it wasn't going to be a good year, and I know that if potatoes are sitting in water, it's not good. They're just gonna rot and not grow anyway. So I just left it and let it do its thing. And so I'm really curious to see if there's anything in here. I do see some potato plants. They don't look super healthy and they're not very vibrant, but I'm curious to see what's underneath. Usually we get quite a good harvest. Considering this year how wet and damp and cold it was, I'm not overly surprised that we're not going to get a good harvest. From year to year, seeing what a cold, wet season is like in a cold climate, it is not a good thing, I can tell you. So this is all I got this year. Not the greatest. Probably the largest one I got, which usually I get like, I don't know, 200 or 300 pounds of potatoes from my planting, but for a bad year, this is all I got. So I'm just going to keep these and I'll save them. I've got one only little red one, and I'm just going to save these for seed potatoes. Oh, there's another red one. So I think my Norland reds and my whites. Anyways, I'll be saving these for some seeds, seed potatoes for next year, but I'm definitely gonna have to buy more. But hopefully either I'm gonna have to raise that bed up, or maybe it'll be a drier year next year and we'll have a decent crop. So anyways, it is what it is. At least these will be easy to store. Well, that one's been eaten. Something's eaten it. I don't want that. This one I spliced in half, so be careful when you're digging up your potatoes. You don't want that to happen. Anyways, if you want to check out my other harvest video of potatoes, I can link that down below or show you a little clip of the decent harvest we got last year. Anyways, this year not so good, but we knew this going in, so I was curious to see how much we would have gotten. This is what we got this year. So all right, now we've seen what potato harvest is like. I'm going to show you my pathetic corn. Didn't grow, but there's a couple cobs here, probably not worth eating. This is a new variety because I couldn't get the normal one I was looking at, but there it is, a little baby corn. Little baby harvest this year. Mind you, I think you could eat it. It does look like it finished off, but it's just really tiny. Check that out. Not what I was hoping for. Anyways, I got some other really good harvest videos because this one's pretty pathetic. I promise you I'm a better gardener than this, but that's this year. This year was a terrible garden year for us here. Lots of water, cold weather, not ideal for germinating your seeds, not ideal for growing them to finish. Bring you along just for the fun and the joy of pathetic, worst garden ever, garden harvest. Even though we didn't get a good corn crop, it is still necessary to clean up the garden so that it is good and ready for the next spring. Just because this year was a flop and not a good year for gardening doesn't mean that next year isn't going to be good. Normally we get a decent crop in our corn patch here. We have very few corn crop that came up. They didn't even grow past my height, which is unusual. Not even one of the squash seeds germinated. It was so cold and wet. Mind you, my potato patch and my corn patch are one of the lower areas of the garden that we have. Very wet already. So I should have known going into this year that I probably shouldn't have even tried. However, even though when I was planting, it was still dry enough that I could plant the seed, it just turned cold right afterward and got a lot of rain. You have to at least try in order to get something. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work. I cannot believe how the corn turned out. It's pretty pathetic. My sad potatoes and corn. Crazy. All right, I'll see what kind of zucchinis I got. I got some growing. This one's kind of rotted. I'll pick these rotten ones, give them to the chickens. Well, these zucchinis here, I'm getting my first zucchini of the whole season. And I've got 2 turnip. I have one pretty large turnip that I think is going to be Thanksgiving turnip because there's only one of them. Celery's not too bad. These are my beets. Not a lot of them look really good, but I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like really large beets. Huge beets. Chard's still growing strong and still have a ton of beans. These are going to be my bean seeds though. And then I've got to pick my herbs, which are right here. They're looking pretty good. There's my tomatoes. You can see they've definitely have died. So I got to go and just get rid of these, the stakes. I'll be cleaning up the tomatoes and just chucking them to the chickens. When cleaning up my tomatoes, I just take the stakes out. And then I will rip the plants out and take I'll usually rake up the tomatoes and take them all over to the chickens. That's usually what I do. And then I just use these from year to year. These tomato crop this year, but the tomatoes, when they were eventually coming on, they actually grew a decent size. They wouldn't finish off. They were hard and green for so long after we actually got flowers eventually. Once they did start to turn color, they automatically started to rot. Basically, we got a few nice weeks of warm weather. I want to say like the end of August, early September, and things started to really ripen up in the tomato garden. However, right after things started to ripen up, we started to get some cooler temperatures at night, which was close to frost. It killed the plants, and then everything started to go black spots. And then some of the tomatoes you can see that might look okay, they were actually like bruising or had soft spots, kind of mushy, which is not a nice texture. So even though they might look like they're decent, they really were just absolutely terrible. That being said, we did get some put away. I did put some away into the freezer because I didn't have time to can and stuff like that. So I think I've got about anywhere from 3 to 6 bags of tomatoes put away in the freezer so that I can can at a later date. So another thing we do this time of year is not only cleaning up the garden, started cleaning up the chickens, getting the wood in, it's going around and getting the lawn ready and prepared. I cannot stand when you have like things laying around under the snow getting wrecked and ruined. I like to kind of make sure that the yard is cleaned up. It doesn't always happen, but for the most part, we don't like things, if we're going to be spending money on things like lawn chairs and gazebos and stuff, we want to make sure we take care of them. So we're taking this down. It was nice to have up. We had a couple functions at our house this summer, which was really nice to have some people over and a nice shade to have some people over as well. And in the bug season, it's nice to have somewhere to go where the bugs aren't bothering you. So anyways, we're just kind of taking this down as another sign that winter is coming, because it's really pushing us to get going and getting the yard cleaned up. As well as this is kind of where we have in the past couple years, we've been keeping like overstock of when Jay's cutting the logs, we put our logs there so it's close to the splitter, and then we can split. And it just makes things smoother and easier to have things kind of right beside each other. So we had to move this also, not just because the snow's coming, but because this is where we're setting our logs. As Jay goes ahead and cuts the logs, when he has time, he just stacks them there. And then when we have time to do a splitting day, we can all go out and the logs are there from the split, and Hannah and I can start doing like splits or doing some stacking. And it just makes things run smoothly, especially if we can have a lot of things cut up. Even if we run into winter, at least they're stacked and ready to go and to be split, and we're not cutting in the snow and logs aren't buried in the snow. So we just use skids really right now to put some of the logs on temporarily, taking advantage of this nice weather because I don't think it's going to be around much longer.
Doug. He has the zooms right now.
And Doug's always around. Doug's our dog. He is a yellow lab, about maybe Maybe he's about 5 or 6 years old now. He is always stuck around us, especially when we're out doing things. He likes to be close by, and if you can tell, he's rather attached to our daughter. He always tends to follow her around also. And when he's outside and we're all outside and he gets going, he gets excited, he gets the zoomies. So another thing that we went and did this particular weekend anyway is we went and we checked out some of the local fall colors. We love just taking drives and seeing the scenery of the fall leaves this time of year. So we ended up going, Jason brought his drone and we were able to do kind of like a panoramic view of some of the backcountry roads around where we live. Have some really great footage of that. You can see the beauty that we live amongst. We are so blessed by where we live. Basically, I tell people we live in the sticks, which you can see, we really do. And we're just surrounded by these beautiful fall colors. And so we did that. We are going to be heading out because I'm going to be picking up my garlic today. It's supposed to actually rain, so we have to take advantage of the rainy days and go and do things that can't necessarily do when, you know, we want to be outside. So it was supposed to be nice this morning, so it was nice all morning, and it was supposed to rain in the afternoon, so we thought if we worked hard and got a lot of the logs and stuff put away so that we can do some splitting next week, that we could go out in the afternoon when the rain's supposed to come, since we're not going to be out cutting wood in the rain. So before we left, we decided to put up a new Canadian flag. You must have seen the Canadian flag. It's been up probably for about 3 or 4 years now. Hannah couldn't wait for us to get a new one put up. One thing about being on a Canadian homestead, there is always lots to do because winter is always just around the corner, it seems. Doesn't matter if it's summer or what, but we're always have this push in us that snow is just around the corner, which is kind of a funny thing, but you never know. One year we had snow the first week of October. I think that was 2 years ago. After we got the flag up, we headed out to get my garlic. So I do plant garlic every year. This year, because everything was so wet and damp, I didn't have a super great garlic harvest, but I love growing the porcelain garlic. It's probably one of the easiest garlics to grow, and we always grow hardneck varieties because they are cold hardy and great for these northern climates. I'm going to go to the local garlic place where I go and pick up my garlic. She has a huge selection of garlic. I was so happy to find someone close by, and I like to find someone who is relatively within our area so that I know that the garlic can grow well in our area. So say if I'm ordering from the States, as I've done in the past, I've ordered some garlic. You don't necessarily know if it's going to grow well in your climate if you're living in a completely different country, in a different province. So get a local farmer that has garlic and plant this whatever they're growing, because I know it's going to grow successfully where I am. I haven't been to this garlic farm in probably 3 or 4 years because every year I always save extra garlic to plant. Some of the garlic harvest, we eat it, and some of the garlic harvest is for seed for the following year. However, due to the weather this year and the climate that we had and all the rain and the cold, the garlic didn't finish off as well as I would have liked it to. And it was much smaller than the previous years. So I thought I was time to go and get some new garlic, which is something that you do have to do after a while. Having good garlic does need to be replenished, whether you're going to save seeds and start some garlic from seeds or just go ahead and buy some new garlic. So it doesn't last forever. You've always got to kind of try and have a decent kind of new crop every year. So if you find that your garlic is getting smaller and smaller and it's not turning out as well, it could be time to get some new garlic or start some garlic seed rather than planting garlic clove. Anyways, I went and I picked up some Mennonite, Siberian garlic, picked up a new one this year, which is a red Russian garlic, which I haven't tried yet. It's a little bit stronger in taste and it has a longer storage life, which is something that I think is great. So it will last a little bit longer than the porcelains that I've been growing these last few years. So I'm quite excited about that. We got a lot accomplished. And then we ended off our week with the Northern Lights. So I don't know if anyone has seen the Northern Lights or not, but we had about 3 solid nights of Northern Lights and we were able to capture some of it. So you can see some of it here. It was so beautiful, but I'm going to tell you, it was really cold, but we got some beautiful, beautiful views of the Northern Lights just right in our own backyard. So we were sitting on our deck enjoying the view. You could see them with the naked eye. So we took a time lapse so you could also get to see some of the Northern Lights from our own backyard.